Hello class, the purpose of this video is to give you some project tips, tricks, and reminders to help you continue with your process. So the first thing we're going to review is how to upload the data set into Statcrunch. So when you are in iCollege, you need to scroll down until you access the Danger Lurking Beneath project folder, and click on the very last link in order to access the project dataset. From here, we want to download our dataset, and you can open it, but what we want to do is to save this file. If you decide to open it, then you can go and save directly from there as well. So we're saving the file. Then you want to log into www.mystatlab.com. And on the left-hand side, click on Statcrunch. On the right-hand side, select the second link for Statcrunch website. At the very top under My Data, you want to select a file on my computer. So we want to click that link. In the top left-hand corner, click on Browse. Wherever you saved your file, either under your Downloads folder or your desktop, select your file and open. At the top, it will show you what your data set will look like, and what you should notice is that all of the variable headings are now at the top. They're not actual values in your data set. Scroll down to the bottom of the page and select Load File. So here's your original data set, and that's how you upload your data into Statcrunch. The next thing I want to talk about are some of the features we have been using in class. So whenever you want to do some of the features in class, so you can make the column width wider so that you can see all of the values that are currently within the data set, and you can scroll up and down using the bar on the left hand side. Under any of your links, you can always, under your variable headings, you can click on the drop down arrow. You can insert columns, you can sort as well. At the very bottom, you can move columns also. In class, what we have used so far under the graph menu, we've used bar plots in order to create bar plots for qualitative data. You use with data when you have data such as this. You have a row for every single item in your data set. We've created pie charts for qualitative data. We have created histograms for quantitative data, stem and leaf plots for qualitative data, box plots for quantitative data, dot plots for quantitative data, and we have used the index/time plot for our time series graphs as well. Under our stat menu, you use summary stats and columns in order to calculate things like your mean, your standard deviation, your variance, your median, your range, your min, your max, your quartiles as well. You also have IQR available, and if you see the yellow bar on the screen, if you want to add in any additional statistics, you want to hold down the control button and select your additional options. Remember, as I stated in class, mode is the only one where it only works if you have a unimodal data set, if there is one mode. If there are more than one modes, then you need to do something else in order to figure out what value appears most often. We have used stat tables and frequency in order to create frequency distributions. A frequency distribution is a table that tells you all of your options and then how many values exist for that particular option. Later on in the semester, next week, we're going to use stat and regression and then simple linear in order to find our least squares regression line, our correlation coefficient, our coefficient of determination, and to create scatter plots. Also under graph, next week, we're going to use a scatter plot as well. Under data, what we've used, well, something very important is the save feature. So if you do any editing to your data set, such as if you want to change your Irish Spring 12 bar to just include the cost, then what you want to do is to go to data and then save, so that now this data set will always be saved in Statcrunch. So for example, I can save this data set in the danger lurking beneath new. And now I can close this data set out. If I ever want to go back and continue working on my project, now where I would go is under my Statcrunch and then data. Now any files that I've uploaded are automatically here, and the new file that I've saved as well. If you also create any types of graphs and you want to keep these graphs, then same thing, data and save. And you want to make sure to click on save results as well, your graphs and any of your settings, so that the values stay and you always have access to this. Even if you close out any of your graphs, they are always here under one. But if you close out your data set without saving, it's only going to have saved from the last time that you saved the information. We also talked about in class a feature called binning. So with binning, you can set fixed widths, fixed groups in which you want to place values, or like we did in class, you can use cut points. We used the test 1 data and we wanted to figure out how many students scored A, B, C, D's, and F's. So we set particular cut scores of 60, 70, 80, and 90. So we talked about your calculations, we talked about your graphs, we talked about your frequency distributions, contingency tables. In chapter 5, we're going to work with some contingency tables. So under stat tables and frequency, we use that to create frequency and relative frequency distributions. In chapter 5, we're going to create some contingency tables. And once again, we'll be using data. So you have to select the row variable that you're interested in, and then the column variable in order to set up this particular table. And then you need to select row percent or column percent depending upon what you want to find in that particular situation. You also have the ability, when you're creating graphs or when you're doing calculations, to narrow down what you're looking for. So let's say you're looking for the average cost of shampoos at Walmart. So your two variables that you can use under summary stats are all the quantitative data. But now we want to be very specific. I want to see only those for deodorant. So there are two ways that we can do that. One way is we can group by item. So now we have the Walmart costs, we have all of these calculations, but we group by the item, so it looked at all of the body washes together and then did the calculations on that group. It looked at all the conditioners. Another option for you is, instead of doing group by, you can be very specific with the where feature. So we would need to click on build, and I want to build where my item is a specific one, and I want in quotation marks, and you have to make sure to spell it correctly, D-E-O-D-O-R-A-N-T. We type OK and we click compute. So now it's only looking at the deodorants and giving you the values for that. So you have the group by feature and you have the where feature. Both of them are going to give you the same exact answer. One is just going to give you all of the answers, and then you can just narrow down. The other, where you're being very specific, will give you just that information. It just depends on what the question is asking you for. Next, we already talked about saving your data and how you go back and access it every time that you enter Statcrunch. Exporting graphs to your Word document. So when you were in iCollege and you downloaded your project, when you're in iCollege, the very first link is your project description. And right below that chart, you can select download and open as a Microsoft Word file. You can type all of your answers and features into your Word document. You want to make sure that there's only one Word document that's submitted. So you list all of your group members' names here, class days, Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, class time, 7 a.m., 8:30, or 10. What is your group number? If you've forgotten your group number, look on the attendance sheet. It should be the number right beside your name. And then in this Word document, you can update it with your answers. So let's say for number 16, find the Walmart mean cost by type of item. So we've already created that. The Walmart mean cost by type of item. So I could retype all of this information. Another option, here on your search menu, if you have Windows 10, you can type SNIP for snipping tool. So with your snipping tool, you press new, and then you highlight the area in which you want to include, edit, copy, and then you can paste this into your document, and you can resize that picture. If you created a graph that you would like to include, you can do the same exact thing with the snipping tool. You also can take a screenshot, a print screen, and then just edit it to fit that size. You also have the option of going under options and then downloading this picture, and you can save as a .png file, and decide where you want to save that. And then in your Word document, you can go to insert pictures and then find wherever you posted it. And once again, make sure that you size it so that it fits inside the area. I do not need any extremely large graphs. Next, a question hint for you for question number 28. So leading up to question number 28, question number 26 says, could the empirical rule be used? Empirical rule can only be used if your data is bell-shaped. So you need to know and find the histogram of cost for deodorants at Target. Then see if that is bell-shaped. If it is, then yes, the empirical rule can be used. Question 27 says, calculate using the empirical rule or Chebyshev's inequality the percentage of data that should be within 2 standard deviations of the mean of cost of deodorants at Target. So in 26, you already said if you could use the empirical rule or not. So if you said yes, in 27, you use the empirical rule, and it will tell you the percentage of values that should be within 2 standard deviations of the mean. If in 26 you said the empirical rule cannot be used, then that means in 27 you have to use Chebyshev's inequality. You go to your textbook, you look in the same section that we talked about empirical rule, and Chebyshev's inequalities on the right hand side. Read the paragraph, and in the paragraph it states specifically within 2 standard deviations of the mean you should see at least. Yes, you have to include the word at least because that means a minimum of blah. So you need to look and see what that value is if you're using Chebyshev's inequality. In 28, I want you to actually calculate by hand the value. So here's where your tip comes from. So here's what we need to do. The first thing we need to do is we need to figure out the mean. We need to calculate the mean. Deodorant costs at Target. That's the first thing that we're going to do. The second thing we need to do is you need to calculate the standard deviation. And that's going to be S. Once you have that information, what we're looking for is the percentage of observations that are within 2 standard deviations of the mean. So what we need to know is, what is the lower value of this 2 standard deviations below the mean? So we would take our X bar, we would subtract 2 times the standard deviation, and then we're going to get the lower number, our smaller number. So right here, I'm going to put LN to stand for lower number. Then you need to know, what is the higher value? So you take your sample mean, you add 2 standard deviations to that. So now you have your upper number. So you need to go to your data set and then some kind of way figure out how many of your values in your data set are between the lower number and the upper number. How many deodorants at Target cost between the lower number and the upper number? So that's going to give you a frequency. That's going to give you a count. But what we need is a percentage. So you figure out how many deodorants at Target are between your lower number and your upper number. You have that. Then in the denominator you have how many deodorants did you have, period, from Target, because that's your total. And then you multiply this by 100% in order to change to a percentage. So you're calculating this by hand. The empirical rule is what you use to determine percentages if your distribution is bell-shaped. And it's a shortcut. It only does multiples of your standard deviation. Your Chebyshev's inequality gives you the percentages only within certain values if your data is not bell-shaped. And since they don't know the shape, the value has to be smaller than what the empirical rule says. Here, I want you to actually calculate and figure out what percentage of your values are within 2 standard deviations from the mean. Next, once you and your group members work out projects, and of course you can meet multiple times through the semester, so you're not waiting until the end to compare everything, you should get together, you should compare everybody's answers, and anything that is not aligned, is not the same, then that's what you need to talk about, discuss. How did you get this value? Where did you get this from? What steps did you use? This allows everybody to check your work as you're working through it. This also helps you to find any of the small errors, like maybe somebody forgot on their graph to include titles and access titles. You can catch that if somebody else is checking the project with you. Somebody can catch if everybody didn't round to the nearest hundredth place, the 2 decimal places. You have other people to read what you have written to make sure that your punctuation, your grammar is proper. That is the benefit of having team members, so that you work together to create a final project that is hopefully close to perfect. So when you have your file completed, you want to save it as a PDF. And if you don't have this option in your Microsoft Word version, you can go under Save As and then pick wherever you want to save this document. And you can save the type as a .pdf as well. So to submit your file in iCollege, you want to go to Assignments, and anybody in your group has access to submit the file. And you click on this link, and then you can upload your file here. Once you've uploaded a file, everybody needs to go and check, because sometimes when you upload files in the conversion process, things do not look exactly as they're supposed to be. You want to make sure that what you turn in is what you actually would like for me to grade. So at the end of the project, I also gave you this grade member evaluation sheet. So you put your name at the top, your group number, your class day and time, Monday, Wednesday, 8 o'clock, and then you type all of the other group members, or you write all the other group members' names in these boxes. Their assigned task was supposed to be to work on the entire project. You give them a grade evaluation, not based upon how much they knew, but the effort that they put in. Did they show up to meetings? Did they stay with constant communication? Did they explain the parts they have? Did, if they were missing anything, attempt to learn the information by going to tutorial or supplemental instruction, or asking me, or going to the tutoring center? How much effort did they put in order to be a valuable member of the team? And then you're writing over here those things. Why did you assign them that particular grade? And you're going to end up with a group grade at the end. So you're turning in one project. The entire group has one project grade. You turn in your group members' evaluation sheets. I average those values from the group members' assessment of you, and then I multiply them together. So your average grade that your group members gave you is multiplied by the group grade, and that gives you your individual grade in the class that will be posted in my stat lab. It has happened that some people in the group get an A and other people in the group get a B or a C. That's the purpose of this form, to make sure that everybody is held accountable for the work that they produced or not. You turn this into me before or on the day that your project is due. And then once I grade it, I have this information. I do not share the names of what individuals have said. I do share the comments of what people have said. So that is all. Good luck to you on the project. Don't wait till the last minute in order to get started. Have a great weekend.